So I think with a game like Starfield, there's kind of a lot up in the air. I think you could say that about a lot of Bethesda's games and a lot of the stuff that they have in development right now, as well as Microsoft. I think this game is under a lot of pressure, if I'm being honest with you. The last time we saw this game, I was kind of left with the impression that it just kind of feels like Skyrim in space, Fallout in space. And even Todd Howard himself, I think, was speaking in layman's terms, but he has said that, yeah, it's Skyrim in space. Is just Skyrim in space enough for Bethesda and for Microsoft? As I mentioned, there's pressure here because, let's get real, Microsoft hasn't had a big hit in a little while. I have to imagine that Halo Infinite isn't quite reaching the numbers that they had originally expected. I like Halo Infinite. I think it's a fine game. I definitely think that there's a lot to be desired with that title, especially with post-launch stuff and sort of their communication with that. Microsoft has kind of had it a little hard with Halo and with a lot of their bigger games as well. There's the Perfect Dark stuff, what's going on there, and a lot of their games just being kind of really far away, stuff with Fable and Playground Games working on that, and that's kind of rocky as well, and we don't really know what's going on with a lot of Microsoft's games. And it's been a little while since we've seen Starfield. Now, I think that there are more than just a couple of reasons why I would consider this game to be under pressure. For starters, it's Bethesda's first big exclusive on a singular platform. We haven't really done this before. This is new to Microsoft, to Bethesda, and as well as the fans. And people have been pretty outspoken about that stuff. Todd Howard and Pete Hines over at Bethesda have also talked about this in the past. Starfield is exclusive to the Xbox. It is Game Pass, day and date, baby. Let's go. I'm excited. But does that model really work? And can you get people on board? Is this game going to make enough money through Game Pass for it to be profitable? I don't really have enough knowledge of how it really works in Game Pass, especially for big exclusives. I know that that's sort of the big draw to Game Pass, and it's something that they've been really missing. Lately, Game Pass has just kind of been a lot of really cool niche titles that happen to find their audience there, and that's excellent. That's super, super cool. I'm playing EDF World Brothers and having a blast, but a big, big exclusive on this service, what are we taking from that? Halo didn't quite make its numbers. Again, this is left to assumption. I'm sure it did okay. I'm sure it did okay by their standards, but I definitely think the general perception of that game should be a little bit bigger. And the game is basically free to play for Xbox users. So it makes me think, what is going to get people invigorated for Starfield on Xbox? There's that pressure, right? I think something else to also look at is Bethesda's track record. I mean, let's be honest, it hasn't been too great lately. Fallout 76, say what you will about that game. I know it's found its niche fan base. I know, apparently there are people that still play that game today. That's fantastic. I know Skyrim has had multiple resurgences throughout the year where people jump on board. There's some big mod coming out and fans get excited about it. But in terms of just general perception of their games, 76 was kind of a dumpster fire. Was not a very good video game. And Fallout 4, although much, much, much better and definitely held in much higher regard, I think people could really start to see the cracks in the overall engine and, of course, all of the bugs and glitches and all of those things. And, you've heard that before. I'm not going to sit here and say there's bugs here and bugs there with these big open world games. That kind of comes with the territory. But with Bethesda, it's like tenfold. We have seen a lot of open world games since Fallout 4, since Fallout 76. We have seen a lot of games run really smoothly and do really well. Horizon Zero Dawn, Ghost of Tsushima, Breath of the Wild, all of these games have succeeded in bringing about I would even say God of War. I would even throw that in the camp. There have been a lot of open world games that are very, 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 very good. And none of them were made by Bethesda. So it's going to be interesting to see how they sort of pivot and maneuver and utilize this ancient engine that they've been using since, I believe, Morrowind. And of course, this engine has had work put onto it. There's a lot of games that use old framework. There's a lot. That's how it works. You want to use your resources and all that jazz, for sure. But the games are starting to feel dated. I would say going back to Fallout 4, it feels like I'm going back 3 generations. It feels like I'm playing an old game. And it's a fine game. The game is okay, but there are definitely limitations. And when Todd Howard gets on stage and says that we're going to be able to travel to over 10,000 planets, I wonder how it's going to all work. I think Starfield has had a lot of curiosity about it. What is that game? What is Starfield? It's Skyrim in space, right? We saw the trailer. We saw this big gameplay trailer. I, for one, in my personal opinion, was not super impressed. And I think a lot of other people share that sentiment. But there are people that are very excited. And I just wonder if those people that are very excited are enough. Is that enough for Bethesda? And I'm also curious, the next time we see this game, this game has been delayed. We haven't seen it in a little while. It's been a few months. Does it look any different? Or is there anything that they're changing? What do they implement? What is this game? I feel like I don't have a full grasp of what this game is. What does traveling to 10,000 planets mean for me? What do I gain out of making that trek? I think lastly, another big pressure point would be Microsoft's track record, Xbox's track record. Game Pass is great. I love Game Pass. I own it. I use it quite a bit. It's fantastic. Xbox is a great platform. It's a great console. The controller feels nice. But there hasn't been like a lot of big exclusives for this console. Halo Infinite, again, maybe not the best example, but there is Halo Infinite, and it's been a little while. And there's a lot of weird stuff going around with Microsoft's other big exclusives that are upcoming, like Fable, like Perfect Dark, like Avowed, like Outer Wilds 2. Goodness gracious, they have a lot of games in the pipeline, huh? And we have not seen or heard really anything of those games. And like, obviously, that I think it's a marketing blunder. I think it's like, oh, they just should not have announced those games. They were not ready to be shown. They were not ready to be announced. For sure, I think that Microsoft utilized those big titles, those big names, right? Obsidian, they're hot right off the heels of the first Outer Wilds. They're big boys now. So here's a couple of games by them that are coming soon. I think that does get people excited. I do think that stuff works. I do think that stuff sells consoles, weirdly. Yeah. But those games feel like they're in the nebulous, right? They don't feel real. But Starfield is probably the only one of the bunch, and maybe Redfall, both Bethesda games, they do feel real. They're coming out probably this year, probably within the next like 6 to 7 months. And I think that that's a little bit scary. I think that's just a little bit scary, right? We've waited so long to see the fruits of Microsoft's labor, and Starfield is it. Redfall is it. I'm not going to talk about Redfall here. That could be a whole nother video, to be honest with you. Yeah. There was a lot of hype on this game before they showed off the big gameplay demo. And when I saw that gameplay demo, again, I'm not trying to shit on this game. That's not my goal here. Just kind of opening a discussion. That's all. But when I did see this game, I was, again, I was not impressed. It looked fine, but I was definitely underwhelmed. It wasn't like the first time I saw Skyrim, when, you walk out of the cave, the macro detail, let's see those mountains over there, you can go there. It didn't feel like that. Todd Howard said that we can travel to 10,000 different planets, but we didn't see that. We didn't see what that even meant. I feel like there's a lot of disconnect to what Bethesda is trying to do with that title and what the fans want out of that title. It looks a little stilted. It looks a little slow. It looks, again, like Skyrim in space. And this entire medium as a whole has, as I mentioned throughout this entire video, has changed so much. I would even say in the last 2 years, just during COVID alone, gamers are a little bit harder to get excited. You know, it's a little bit hard to arouse and perk up the ears and eyes of a gamer now. You don't get to zoom in on a flower or point to a cliff and say you can go there. You know, it's a little bit more difficult to sell us on things because there's a lot of other things out there. Tears of the Kingdom comes out probably around the same window as Starfield, I'm guessing. Around that summer window. You know, and Spider-Man 2 comes out this year. That's a big deal. God of War exists. And I don't know, man. I don't know if Skyrim in space is enough. Enough for what is also a big question there, right? None of this really matters because this game is going to sell well. This game is going to do fine. The Bethesda, Skyrim fans, Fallout fans, Todd Howard stans, they're going to show up for Starfield. They already are. If you scroll through Twitter, just search Starfield on Twitter. Look at the fan accounts. Look how much love there is for this game already. Sharing concept art and talking about planets and fan art and Todd Howard memes. Just everywhere. People love to love a Bethesda game. I just think that if this game launches in the state that I've seen it in, if it's buggy, I've not seen the game buggy, but you get what I mean. If it is just that, I don't know. I don't know how this game's going to do critically. I don't know how this game's going to do for the general public, the general perception of things. It's going to be very interesting. I'm very excited to play it. You know, I got my Xbox ready. I got my Game Pass ready. I'm ready to be proven wrong. I'm ready to get excited for a Bethesda game. You know, when I was a kid, Elder Scrolls Oblivion was like such a huge game to me growing up. That was such a big deal, playing that game, seeing an open world. And then Skyrim just did it even better. Skyrim just boosted those graphics, made the world feel bigger, the scale, the story, the mechanics at play, holding two swords, holy shit. And then after that, it's kind of pitter-pattered throughout. Like, I'm not as excited to explore their worlds anymore because, well, in fucking Breath of the Wild, I can fly. I can zoom around. I can control elements and slow down time for objects. In Spider-Man, I can zip and zoom. And yeah, Starfield's got space battles. It's got space battles. Comment below, give me your thoughts on Starfield. How do you feel about this video game? What's your general take? Again, this is not me trying to shit on this video game. It's just my opinion. We're just talking here. This game could be very, very good. I want it to be very, very good. Again, Oblivion and Skyrim and even Fallout 3 and 4, I really enjoy those games. Some of them are my favorites of all time. I want to see Bethesda in the light again. So let me know if you do as well. What's your general concerns about this game or your excitement level? Comment below and give me your thoughts. I'm going to edit this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.